So before going to the new lesson, what I would do is I would summarize the last week lesson that we did, a small summary. So last week lesson, what we did was overview of corporate governance, a very introductory lesson. So this is just a summary overview, or rather I would say a recap of what we did last week. So we learned that there is nothing new about corporate governance, although that we talk it as a theoretical subject today. As a practice, it was there in early years as well. But theoretical exploration of the subject is very new, and today we talk it as a subject, even though we had it practiced in early trades between countries, trade in uh, China, India, Sri Lanka, wherever the ownership is separated from the control, there was a separation. Governance was there, governance practices was there, but the phrase was not there. However, there were since trade like sole proprietorships, partnerships, there were certain limitations with these business models that we talked about. The main limitation was the limited liability, an unlimited liability. But with the industrial revolution, there were opportunities. And given the opportunities, people wanted more money. Then there was a problem of raising funds. So as a solution to address the problem of raising funds, there was a new business model that was created in 19th century, that was a limited liability company. Because of the unlimited liability in earlier business models, given the opportunities, people did not wish to put money because there were unlimited amount of liabilities. They had to pay by their own properties. So to address this issue and to then fulfill the need of raising funds, this is the new business model. And this business model is the new focus of modern focus of corporate governance. Modern focus of corporate governance. So this is just a mind map of what we did, or other summary. So if you want, you can put it down in the paper on your notes. This would not be uploaded. It is just, I am just doing the recapping just to refresh your memory. So if we learned that in early trades, owner managed the company, where the owner and the manager were one person. My company, I manage it, and there was no such separation as such. However, with the limited liability companies, owner was the shareholder, where you put money, and the controlling power was with someone else, where the owners by who the people who was appointed by the owners. So in the modern focus of limited liability companies, the ownership was separated from corporate governance. The ownership was separated from the control or the management. However, even the ownership is separated from the management, the power was rested with the owners, or rather the shareholders. Shareholders was the basis of power. Management or the board of directors were the stewards. Stewards means they have to work for the shareholders. Shareholders appoint the board of directors. And they had a fiduciary duty. We talked about what was fiduciary duty. It was to act and to be honest to your owner or to your shareholder. And accountability. Accountability was you have to be accountable for all the actions that you do, on behalf of your shareholders, because the directors work on behalf of the shareholder. So you have to be accountable on that. Ownership different from control or management? Well, there's a question like that. In the earlier business models, like in early trades, ownership was not different from management, because my company I managed. There were no separation as such. But with the limitations that we had, it was created, there's this new business model called limited liability company. In that business model, ownership is different from the management. Owners were the shareholders, management was board of directors and other employees. This was not done by the same person, same set of person as per the case in sole proprietorships and partnerships. So going forward, earlier, since it was a very simple model of limited liability companies, the business grew large and there were complex business groups. And it was not the case where a set of shareholders sit on a table and discuss with the management. බොහොම සිම්පල් බිස්නස් මොඩල් එකකින් තමයි පටන් ගත්තේ. ෂෙයාර් ටිකක් එකට එකතු වෙලා බෝඩ් එකත් එක්ක කතා කරන තත්ත්වයක් වගේ සිම්පල් බිස්නස් මොඩල් එකක්. But with the developments in the industry, it grew. Acquisitions වුණා, mergers වුණා. එතකොට shareholders diverse and geographically dispersed. එක එක තැන්වල තමයි shareholders එන්නේ. එතකොට කට්ටියම එක තැනකට ගන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වයක් තිබ්බේ නැහැ. එක එක තැන්වල එක එක ප්‍රදේශවල විසිරීලා ගියපු simple business model එක complex model එකක් වඩපත් වුණා. Then we had a need of corporate governance. We had a need to practice good practices. So there were the developments in the past. In 1930s, starting from, there was an issue of top management dominancy. People were telling shareholders, there was no place for shareholders. Top management or the board was nominally appointed and shareholders were nominally there. Board of directors was nominally accountable. It was the top management or the board that take the decisions and the shareholders were nowhere. There were issues. So to address those issues, it was established the Securities and Exchange Commission. Even in Sri Lanka also we have that to overlook the companies that is being listed. They set some listing rules to see whether the companies are practicing good governance practices. So in 1970s going forward, there was a proposal to put with two-tier boards. So one-tier board was, you had the shareholder and just the board of directors. There's only one governing body. In two-tier board, there are two governing bodies. Shareholders are there. They appoint two boards, board of directors and board of management. So what did the board of directors do was, they did all the supervisory part and the board of management did all the execution part. So then the two supervision and execution is clearly separated. So there it's easy to do the business. But however, due to the conflicts that the board, due to the fear that the board would lose the power, two-tier board's suggestion was not put into place. It was set aside and people accept that one-tier board was the good model of board structure. Then there was another suggestion of stakeholder ideas. What it suggested was, the companies should not focus only on the shareholder, board of director and its employees. Rather, they should concentrate, they should focus on all their connected stakeholders like suppliers, distributors, customers, and transport people, everyone who's been connected. So that idea was also kept as an idea but was not practiced. In 90s, 1980s, there were the arrival of corporate governance with the experiences of corporate collapses. There had been lots of corporate collapses around the world in US, UK, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, everywhere there were corporate collapses because of the bad practices, because the interest of the shareholders and the interest of the management or the controlling party, governing party was not aligned. There were issues. Then there was a need of principles and good practices. So as in response to the need of principles and good practices, in 1992, the first corporate governance report was published. That was Cadbury report. In the Cadbury report, it has certain good practices suggested. However, it was on the aspect of finance. It has a financial aspect of corporate governance. So this was done in US. Afterwards, many codes arrived, like Campbell Code, Greenberry Code, in UK Combined Code. Likewise, after the Cadbury report, there were many countries that introduced their own corporate governance codes. Afterwards, also that we learn, even though the governance codes were there are many companies that failed. And few of the companies that had large fails that everyone talked about was Enron, WorldCom, Tyco. There were many more. So Enron and WorldCom, I showed you the videos also, but due to some technical matters, you didn't hear it. Anyway, I have uploaded the Enron case. So you can search the other cases also. It is there in YouTube. And when your tutorial classes also started, we'll discuss about your tutorial, sir would discuss with you about 2 to 3 cases. So now I have given you the names of certain cases. So you can search in the Google and get familiar with those cases, because that knowledge would be tested in exam papers. So if you take the past year exam papers, there are certain questions to provide examples from real world governance issues, real world corporate collapses. So it's better that you learn those, even through YouTube or read articles or whatever it is. So however we learn, with the given large company failures, there was the arrival of Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This was an act introduced in US because their fear was, even though the corporate governance practices was practiced in these companies that had large failures, since they fail, corporate governance කියලක තිබ්බ companies fail. So what they did was introduce the Sarbanes-Oxley Act and said adhering to the corporate governance is not a choice. You don't have a choice. It's a rule. Every company, it's a mandate to comply to corporate governance practices. It was a mandatory thing. That was the case in US. But still rest of the world, even in Sri Lanka, it was practicing corporate governance practices was not mandatory, rather it's voluntary. It was set as still principles. However, in Sri Lanka, if you want to get listed, you will have to adhere to corporate governance practices. But if not, adhering to the corporate governance practices is voluntary. It's not a must. However, in these countries, even in Sri Lanka, if you are not complying to corporate governance practices, you have to give your reasons. That was the case. Tell us why you are not complying. Give your reasons. However, with all these developments, still in 2007, we all experienced the global financial crisis. If you read about it, that was also due to poor management practices. Poor auditors. Auditors was not responsible. Auditors was not actually independent. The purpose of establishing or recruiting an external auditing team is to maintain the independence. So that was not there. So there were changes to UK Combined Code in 2010 in response to the global financial crisis. That was simply the developments that happened around the world. However, in Sri Lanka also we learned there were developments. The start was state-owned enterprises, and then with the open economy, privatization systems and companies grew, and there was a need in 1990, corporate governance initiatives commenced. We also as a country understood the importance of good governance practices, and then only the Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and the SEC combinedly developed the Corporate Governance Code in 1990s. And after that, 2008 is a milestone in corporate governance practices for Sri Lanka, because we have mandated that all the listed companies to be listed, you have to incorporate corporate governing practices to your company. In 2008, that was a development. And 2010 also there were some changes to corporate governance code in response to the UK Combined Code changes. So that was basically what we learned. So altogether what we have to understand is, from the first lecture, corporate governance practices is not a theoretical, does not have a theory as such, rather it's a development. Today we have a code, and in certain few years time, with the corporate collapses and the experiences, those codes would be updated. And even you as students can propose good practices. Everyone can propose good practices. So this is an evolving subject. It's not an on the spot developed subject. Subject. This is an evolved subject. So that was the basic summary of last week lecture. So today's lesson is a continuation of the last week, corporate governance defined. So we'll talk about certain definitions of corporate governance that were developed throughout the time period. So these definitions also developed as and when people experienced corporate collapses and with the developments that happened in the rest of the world. So in this lesson, this is the learning objectives. First, we'll talk about definitions of corporate governance. There's no one definition as such. So if you take what is management, management has a definite definition. But corporate governance does not have a definite definition. Make a definition එකක් කියන එකක් නැහැ. මේක definitions ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. It has definitions from different perspectives. Perspective of operational perspectives, financial perspectives, stakeholder perspectives. Likewise, from different perspectives, it has definitions. Then pillars of corporate governance. When after studying these definitions, we can derive some pillars. Pillars in the sense, these are the basic building blocks of corporate governance practices. Now we have certain practices. One the practice that we discussed last week was the separation of the role of chairman and the CEO. CEO, chairman කියන role දෙක පුද්ගලයින් එක්කෙනෙක් කරන්න එපා, පුද්ගලයින් දෙන්නෙක් දෙන්න. Because CEO is the head of the management, chairman is head of the board. Chairman is in the supervisory end, CEO is in the execution end. So likewise, it was a practice. So that practice is evolved with the base of these pillars. අපි ගෙයක් හැදුවාම ඒකට ෆවුන්ඩේෂන් එක දාලා අර ගේ ඉතිරි බිත්ති ටික පදින් ඉන්නේ වගේ තමයි මේ ප්‍රැක්ටිසස් කාලෙන් කාලට ඩෙවලොප් වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ පිලර්ස් ටික උඩ. දැන් පිලර්ස් හතරක් තියෙනවා. ඒ පිලර්ස් හතර පදනම් කරගෙන බේස් එක කරගෙන තමයි practices developed වෙන්නේ. So we'll discuss what those pillars are. Then the scope of corporate governance. දැන් මොකක්ද දෙයක් කරලා අපි scope එකක් තියෙනවා. කිසියම් දෙයක් ගැන discuss කරන්න. So corporate governance scope. What are the elements? මොන elements ගැනද අපි කතා කරන්නේ? මේ වපසාරිය මොකක්ද? Scope එක. So that would be discussed. Then the most interesting is difference between governance and management. Corporate governance කොහොමද management වලින් differ වෙන්නේ? ඒ දෙක සමානද? සමාන අසමානකමක් තියෙනවායි කියන එක අපි last week එකේ කතා කරා. We learned that there is a difference. Governance was more than management. So we'll discuss about it in detail in this session. The performance and conformance aspect of governance. When you talk about governance, now we know there are board, who is the governing body. Governing body has basically two roles. One is the supervisory role and the other one is the executory role. So that supervision and execution is separatedly, we can talk it as performance and conformance aspect. Supervision and execution කියන දෙක අපිට තව ටිකක් detail කරලා කරන්න පුළුවන්. Governing body එකේ තියෙන performance role එකයි conformance role එකයි. You might not understand it at the moment, but we'll discuss. Then alternative board structures. Now board is a set of board of directors. The composition of the board will be different from company to company, and it would be different from the company's model. Alternatives. එක එක company වලට එක එක board structures තමයි හරියන්නේ. Family owned business එක board structure එක හරියන්නේ නැහැ listed company එකකට. ඒ වගේ family owned business එකක් නම් මොන වගේ board structure එකක්ද හොඳ? To practice good governance practices. Listed company එකකට නම් මොන වගේ board structure එකක්ද හොඳ? මේ alternative structures අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නේ underlying motive එක තමයි practicing good governance practices. Then governance structures. Sri Lankan governance structure is not the same in Japan. Japanese governance structure is not the same in UK and US. Fundamentals are same, but the structures would be different. Different due to the country laws, country specific culture, their languages. Likewise, a country එකේ තියෙන සංස්කෘතිය, චාරිත්‍ර, නීති, company law එක, සමාගම් නීතිය ඒවා අනුව මේ structures වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වෙනස් වෙනවා. අපි ඒව බලමු කොහොමද වෙනස් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. But the fundamental idea is the same. The basic idea. Then importance of corporate governance. Why we have to talk about governance? We know why it is, but more specifically we will talk what is the importance is. So I told you the first learning objective to learn the definitions of corporate governance.